Welcome to the BNB Investing Podcast for real estate investors. Fix and flippers and realtors exploring investment options with Airbnbs and short-term rentals through acquisition, leasing, or management to generate consistent monthly revenue. Join us for a chat with experienced and successful short-term rental investors to hear their story of how they got started and created wealth by building scalable businesses. We also explore various service providers and lenders that help make our businesses more efficient and maximize revenue in this awesome sharing economy. Welcome your host, Rich Munroe.
All right, I think we are live. Yep, we're live, and let's see, it's a 30 seconds, 60 seconds before 5 o'clock, so we're gonna not waste any time here. We'll get started right away.
Okay.
We'll let people jump on as they come in. So I am recording this, so I'll give you a copy of the recording as well if you want to use it.
Okay. So I'll be able to share the link.
Yep. All right, so right at 5 o'clock, Rich Munroe here with BNB Investing Group. Thanks for jumping on with us. We've got Anthony Williams here, a good friend of mine on. And the purpose of BNB Investing Group is to kind of mastermind, share thoughts with other short-term rental investors and look at different ways to grow and scale your business, whether you're doing acquisitions, master leasing, or managing of properties, which, you know, a lot of us are kind of doing one thing, one of those three, or some of us are doing all three. And so the purpose of this group is to kind of explore, exchange best practices, look at different new tools in the business, and really just kind of share thoughts with each other. And I want to thank Anthony for spending the time with us today. Like I said, I've known Anthony probably four, 5, 6 years now, and I'm probably just as anxious to kind of hear your story, because I really don't know all the nooks and crannies of your beginnings. So I'm kind of looking forward to this as well. And so we're going to kind of just have an open format and let Anthony kind of give a brief introduction, and I'm just going to dive into a couple questions. So Anthony, welcome.
Thank you, Rich, for having me on. Always a pleasure talking to you, dealing with you, man. You've been influential for me getting started from the beginning. I'm Anthony Williams. I'm CEO of GA Luxury Rentals. I currently own and operate, manage about 32 now short-term rentals, and we're currently in the process now of onboarding about another 12 to 15 in the next 60 days. So that's who I am. That's kind of our portfolio size, and it's a pleasure to be here, man.
So that's awesome. So you're about to grow by another 50% in the next 60, 90 days.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Trust me, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about the makeup of the portfolio. Are you acquiring properties? Are you doing master leases? Are you doing a combination?
So a little bit of both. I guess I'll kind of tell you how I started. I started off partnering up with some guys. I own another business, like a medical business, and I started investing in real estate probably 6, 7 years ago. I was just really kind of help funding fix and flips. So we were doing a lot of fix and flip stuff, and I end up, I guess in our group, we have another short-term rental group, and Andrea Wells, I think her name Andrea, I'm mispronouncing her name, but I went to a thing with Keto Johnson, and she came and spoke there, and she talked about short-term rentals. It was around the time that the Super Bowl was coming to Atlanta, and I had a house that I was doing a rehab in Decatur, Georgia, and just about that time I was going to be done. So she was like, "Hey, you guys need to get into the short-term rental game. It's a lucrative game. It's a real, business type deal." And so I started looking at it. I started doing some research on YouTube University, And I figured out, all right, I'm gonna get some sheets. I had to stage it anyway. So I got all that kind of stuff and got it involved. And my first rental was right before the Super Bowl. So we thought we were going to do a lot better than we did. But it still, to me, was very interesting. We made, a lot of money for a 1 weekend situation. I said, well, dang, if we had one of these and it was just a small house in Decatur, imagine if we had something bigger and nicer. And that's how I kind of grew. And I bought my first short-term rental probably 6 months after that, rehabbed it. I still have it to this day. It's my first one in, South Atlanta. It's a 5-bedroom house, 5 bath. I got a pool, hot tub. I just went kind of crazy in this house. And then from there, I kind of scaled my business. I started doing master leases. I was still doing fix and flip, but now I'm doing fix and flips and I'm converting them over to short-term rentals. So
all right, that's good stuff. So before we keep moving, I meant to ask the folks that are watching, if you could just throw a quick chat message in the chat to let us know you can hear us okay. I just want to make sure that that you can hear us before we go too further down the road here. So I was actually pretty disappointed with the Super Bowl as well. I mean, I've been through 2 Super Bowls now. We have properties in Tampa as well. And historically, you usually get 10 times the nightly revenue during large events like that. And I think Atlanta, with the makeup of the teams that ended up coming, the audience, we were expecting New Orleans to I think New Orleans kind of put a monkey wrench in the occupancy. But I think we ended up doing 2 or 3 times instead of 10 times, which is still okay, right?
Right.
And so talk to me a little bit about, so when you do a rehab and then you refinance, how as an investor are you able to kind of access a lot of different properties? Is there like a cap as how many loans you can get to do that with, or what strategically what were you doing?
So really it's a combination of different stuff. I do have a couple lenders, and shout out to David. I don't even know his last name.
Del Vecchio. He actually texted me. Sorry he couldn't make it today, but
David. I don't know how I found him, but I found him some way, and he's done a couple loans for me, man. And so essentially, it's the same kind of deal where you got to find a lender that are okay with dealing with these kind of products, right? We have very high revenue. Like when you're talking about typical long-term rental rates, if you're running a pretty decent short-term rental, you should be doing at least 2 or 3 times that number, at least, right? And so that's kind of how I've kind of been able to fund. And we rehab them, we cash out, refinance them, and then we set them into this long-term path where we're doing short-term rentals with them.
Yeah, and aren't there certain lenders now that are actually able to do kind of a portfolio loan based on short-term rental revenue, and they're actually using the AirDNA forecast and kind of giving it a haircut?
Yes,
like a 20%,
correct,
deduct, which is great because it's been a long time. They were always just strictly looking at the long-term rental revenue as qualifying for the loan. So has that helped with your kind of underwriting process to make it quicker?
Yes, and I guess buying them and refinance them is not really a problem. But when you have them for a while and then you try to refinance it in their short-term rental, a lot of lenders don't really like that. So there are starting to be a lot of new lenders, not a lot, but there are some new lenders that are kind of coming out there. And I'm actually dealing with one now where I have a couple $100,000 locked up into this property. That's a short-term rental because I rehabbed that house, did all this kind of stuff to it. And now I was able to, secure permanent financing, but now I want to do a home equity line of credit or, a cash out refinance on it. And but it makes probably $100,000 a year. Not even probably, that's what it makes a year. So that's a lot of revenue for a typical, $400,000 rental property. And so that this particular lender, they're going to look at that revenue and say, hey, we're going to give you X because you make so much money on that property.
Got it. Okay. And so what drove you to start doing master leasing if you were already doing acquisitions as a part of the strategy?
Scale. There's no faster way. This is a very expensive game to get into, especially depending on what kind of houses you're trying to get into. When you start doing apartments and things of that nature, yeah, I see, you know, a lot of guys have these courses on doing $3,000 or $4,000 one bedroom apartments or whatever. But when you're doing, you know, larger properties, and I kind of specialize in more larger, I kind of moving more toward the luxury side of things. These houses cost a lot of money. You know, it takes you what, 40, 65, maybe 100 days to close on the property. Then you have to fix it and rehab it. So it takes you 6 months to really get a house up. I can sign a master lease today and be moving furniture in 2 weeks. So really, when I seen this business was really working, I ended up getting with another investor who has a lot of properties. And then he was just like, hey, what do you need? I have a lot of houses. I like your system. Let's work together. And that's how I was able to scale, you know, in the last 2 or 3 years so quickly.
No, yeah, I totally agree. So, you know, what I like about master leasing as well is it's relationship based, right? So all you need is 2 or 3 good relationships with folks that have ownership in either multifamily or a large number of properties. And it takes 1 or 2 to start with them, and they see how great it is, and they just want to keep throwing stuff your way. You know, we probably converted 30 properties or so over from long-term to short-term rental with 1 or 2 different owners. Like, you know, so yeah, with the ability to scale and just like you're doing, you know, you take on steroids, you have to activate 10 to 15 units in a 30, 45-day window, and you just have to kind of figure it out and get it done. But yeah, for sure. No, I agree. That's definitely a great way to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So what moved you into kind of the luxury side of things, kind of higher square footage, larger properties?
The numbers, you know, to me, the numbers are, you know, especially even being a beginning investor, period. I tell people all the time, don't fluff the numbers, because if you fluff those numbers from the beginning and you say, oh, well, AirDNA and this right here, people around me are getting, you know, $100 a night, but I can get $500 a night. If you go into that project thinking that and you're wrong, you're going to lose, because you can overpay for things. So when I started getting into the larger houses, I started getting places. And then when you look at the AirDNAs and you start going up to 5, 6, 7 bedrooms, there's not a lot of other product that I can compare this to. So with that, I had to start, you know, me and you've been dealing with a long time. I just would just turn my price up, right? Because I didn't know really what to charge for these houses. So at the beginning, it was literally just sheer throwing stuff against the wall. Okay, I'm gonna charge $500 a night. People were just booking. Then I'll say I'm gonna charge $800 a night. People were booking. Then I'm charging $1,500 and people were still booking. But then I started kind of learning really what this was about. And I deal with a lot of corporate people. It's a lot of larger groups come to my house. I sleep a lot of 16 plus, you know, house type things. And in that, when you break it down per bed and how much they're really paying and all the amenities they get, $1,000 a night sound like a lot. But when you got 12 people in there and they're on a corporate budget with a certain per diem, it's not really a lot of money. And they're paying like $80 a night. Yeah. So it makes sense to them. So that's what kind of first getting into it and understanding there was a real need for it, but it's expensive to get into. But once you're in it, the numbers can make sense both ways. It's a value to my customers. And for us, you know, especially when we own the properties and we got in good on the numbers, the profitability of it it can't be touched.
Nice. And so tell us a little bit about your team that you have, because obviously, you know, this is a hospitality business and you got to keep those guests happy. The only way that you can keep increasing the prices is to continually get good reviews, which is a challenge in itself. So tell us a little bit about the makeup of your team.
So my team is pretty extensive. I would say out of 30 some properties, I probably have 25, 35 people that work for me. The biggest team obviously is the most important segment of our business, cleaning team. I personally contract all mine out. I know a lot of people take them in-house, and you know, we've kind of battled back and forth whether we're going to do that or not, but right now we contract them all out. I have a cleaning manager who oversees all the different cleaning teams. I have an operations manager. I have a maintenance manager, and I have a VA, basically whole system that answers all these calls, deals with issues, and also helps close the deal. And actually, I had a meeting, I think Tuesday. I'm hiring a sales manager where essentially she's going to go out there full time and knock on doors to where we're not going to be just relying on Airbnb, VRBO, all these other OTAs. We're going to go out there and get our own business because people just got to know that we have this product. So that's kind of really the makeup of the team. And me, I kind of, oversee the whole gamut of stuff.
Well, so I know you this is not your full-time gig, right? So you have other businesses. And so it's you've been able to accomplish all this with still having a full-time business with another company, right?
Yeah. So by trade, I'm a clinical neurophysiologist. I'm not a doctor. People always say, "You're a doctor." I'm like, no, I'm not. I do surgery. So I work with brain and spinal cord surgeries, and I run a company here in Atlanta, and we do surgery. So we come in, we basically do the surgery, make sure they don't get paralyzed, that kind of deal. So I've been running that company now for about 15 years, and I branched off. That's how I was able to have enough money to, at the beginning, invest into, real estate. So in that, I still do surgery. Sometimes we have meetings. I'm like, I can't make it. I got surgery today, because I've kind of used that to live off that money. But also, especially as a young entrepreneur, people don't know, you can't just ball out. You're okay. Yeah, you make a lot of money. But if you really want to grow and scale, I reinvest pretty much every dollar I have back into growing and making this business better.
Nice. So I see we have a few familiar names on. I think Debbie, Johnny, Patricia. While we're chatting, Clifton, Ronnie, if you guys have any questions, please throw them in the chat box, and we'll definitely see if we have time towards the end here. We're typically not going to do any longer than maybe 30 or 40 minutes on these live streams, but we definitely want to save some time for questions. So if you guys want to throw any questions in the chat box, also let us know what market you're in as well. Because my next question is, I know you started in Atlanta, and you're even in other parts of Georgia that are kind of outside of Atlanta as well. But talk to us about the evolution of kind of how you ended up in a lot of different markets right now.
So I'm in Atlanta. I bought houses in Macon. I invest, I wouldn't say heavily, but I invest a lot in Macon, South Georgia area. And I also Jacksonville. I'm from Jacksonville. I originally started investing in real estate because I got a lot of friends that invest in real estate in Jacksonville. That's what got me started. So once I started my business here in Atlanta, and I kind of got a hold, I'm like, all right, I got these houses making money, and it was kind of expanding. My guys in Jacksonville were like, hey, we would like to get in here. Can your system work here? And to me, business is, hey, once we got the system done, we can replicate the system. We just need the same key people in each area. That's the hard part sometimes. But that's what we did in South Georgia. It's not too far from Atlanta. So initially my team were running back and forth a lot. And now we have, the cleaning managers, the maintenance managers, the cleaners, and all that kind of stuff set there. Jacksonville's the same way. Louisville, Kentucky, same kind of deal. I went up there a couple years ago, and it was a Facebook deal. A guy was like, hey, you want a whole floor apartments or 5 or 6 apartments? I was like, no. I was like, that's interesting, right? To have your own floor, right? I was just like, I want my whole floor apartments. And then he was like, well, I got 5 or 10. I was like, well, if I can't have the whole floor, I don't want them. He was like, well, if you get the whole floor, I'll move other people out and get you in. So that's how that deal worked.
Nice.
That's how I was able to expand that.
Yeah, a lot of people would be surprised how many deals you can actually get on Facebook with a lot of these different Facebook groups. There's a lot of niches with different markets and folks that are wanting to do arbitrage and looking for a solution. So that's definitely a good source of getting leads. So I did a similar thing when we expanded down to Tampa 2 years ago. We started with an investor that at the time had about 20 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom houses that in the Tampa market. And they needed somebody to invest, and they needed someone to manage. They didn't want to self-manage. And so my mom lives in Bradenton, so I was like, I'll be able to go visit. My sister's out there as well, and so it was a convenient way to kind of get started. And I agree with you. It's heavy lifting in the beginning, the first 30 days to get everything in place with your team. And once you got those boots on the ground, it's basically, I don't have any reason to go down there anymore.
Right.
If you've got the right people doing the right thing. So
correct. And that's the hardest part. Is I think every business struggles with it now is hiring the right personnel. So with our system, we know it works. We've taken enough, to say it nicely, butt whoopings to know that works. That doesn't work. So now getting those same people to kind of buy into our system and say, okay, I'm the cleaning manager. I have to make sure. I don't know. And our houses vary in prices and ranges. We don't know if this person paid $200 a night, or we don't know if this person paid $2,000 a night. We have to treat them all like they paid $2,000, and they're gonna want things a certain way. And if we do that, you still might not get all the best reviews in the world, but at least if you come in with that kind of mentality, you can keep the integrity of the business up. And that's where, I think we're at with our business, really just kind of making sure we provide a first-rate service.
So what are some other challenges besides that, and besides, having the right people?
I think, in my particular space is neighbors, right? So your relationship with neighbors, I'm in neighborhoods. So when you're in a neighborhood and you're running this house, there's 5-6 bedrooms, and there's probably going to be 5 or 6 cars. We don't allow parties. It's not a party house. We have, in fact, Rich, your cousin, when I have security issues, your cousin's the one I kind of plug in with that. And so that's always the deal, because some neighbors, they just don't like short-term rentals beside them, and some of them have a real reason for it. Some of them don't. Some people just want a regular neighbor. They don't want random cars and all that kind of stuff. So dealing with neighbors is always an issue. Like sometimes when I'm taking bookings, if I'm looking at a certain group that may be coming in, I'm thinking about, will this match well with the neighborhood, type deal. So that's always a challenge in this particular space.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And, we, as a general rule, before we even go live, usually while we're setting up, I'll go introduce myself to all the neighbors and, let them know who I am and give them my contact info, and, try to have that comfortable talk with them now before something breaks out, so that you don't meet them for the first time when you've got, 2:00 in the morning and something's going wrong.
Right. Somebody's breaking the rules.
Right.
So yeah, to me, that's always the hard thing. That's why even with me, I try to, as much as I can, I don't like dealing in neighborhoods that are too tight, because I just know that, real tight neighborhoods or real tight situations, we can't control a lot of stuff. We use a lot of technology and a lot of systems to control a lot of things, but we can't control everything. Sometimes people are just going to break the rules. They're going to lie. They're going to do whatever they want to do. In that, we just got to have a system to kind of, knock it down quickly. But it's still at the same time, we just don't want to. I don't like really being close to neighbors that much.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So what do you see in the future? What are your goals? I know you mentioned that you're going to be onboarding another 15, so that puts you at 45. I mean, where are you trying to be 1, 2, 3, 4 years out?
Like I told you before, I'm still having fun with this right now. So to me, I want to grow it. I want to make it better. And I want to really I see myself as taking this business and shifting it a bit to where it's short-term, mid-term, more corporate, that kind of deal. And who knows, 5, 6 years from now, if I'm still having fun, I'm still enjoying it, keep it growing. But if I'm not, really in this structuring it now to where maybe I'll package up and sell it, where in 5 years it's sellable, but me thinking about that, I got to start with, kind of the end in mind, and really make sure my books is clean, making sure they're seeing a chart that's constantly growing. I can't just sit here and this year I have 20 units, next year I have 10, and it's going down, 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 and say, can you give me $1 million for it? That's not going to work, right? They want to see that growth. They want to see that constant chart. And that's where I'm looking at, growing as much as I can, continue to push. And then, maybe in the future, the right deal comes about me, I'll put a price tag on it.
Yeah, no, you always got to think about the exit, right? And so, I think in our business about a year ago, I was just kind of self-reflecting, and because we are doing all three things, management, acquisition, and master leasing, I had a conversation. My wife's my business partner, Marva, for those of you that know her. And so we were like, well, what do we want to do with this? Do we want to, turn up the heat, get more management properties? Do we want to acquire more properties? And what's the end game? And, I think it's interesting because there's a lot of institutional investors that are kind of keeping their eye on this space. It's similar to the build to rent for long-term rentals that have gone over the last 10, 15 years, with hedge funds chopping up distressed properties and rehabbing them and doing long-term rentals. A lot of those folks are starting to look at the short-term rental market and are starting to do the same thing with new construction and those types of strategies. And I think the management side of the business is pretty interesting because it's one of those that some of the larger players in the market, like Vacasa, for example, I mean, they've got 30,000 listings worldwide, and they're growing by just buying up regional property managers that have 100 units here, 200 units here, so on and so forth, and they're growing aggressively with that. And so that's just kind of another option that's out there. And I think the sooner you kind of figure that out, even if it's 2, 3, 4 years down the road, to your point, it gives you an opportunity to get your books in line and simple things, right? So like, even though we have master leases, we structure it where I have one legal entity name on the master lease, and I have a separate legal entity name that manages the day-to-day. Right. So what does that do? I could sell that as a management business, but I could still keep the ownership as a master lease. And so there's different ways strategically that if you set it up right now, it'll just make you more, kind of marketable in the future.
Right. Right. And that's to me, I think that's the most exciting part about this business is we're young. This is a young business, and you get so many young entrepreneurs. All you need is a room. We have a girl in our group that rents out couches, that kind of deal. So you need a room and just a little bit of imagination and a little bit of a system, and you can all of a sudden start to scale this business. And if you do it right, it could be scalable and sellable, and that's the thing that's very interesting, where most people would never be able to get into a business that actually would sell for anything significant, right? Yeah. But get into this space, it's like, I never thought starting this off that, first of all, we'll hit the numbers we hit, because it was just like, I was just trying to make some money to pay my other rent, my main primary resident. Now it's like, I got all these houses, like, good Lord, type deal. But so now you got to think about that stuff, because the end game, as you said, in real estate investing, you want to have multiple exit strategies. If you can't get multiple exit strategies, you shouldn't be doing a deal. So that's where I'm at with it too, is just saying, hey, something come across my board that makes sense. Hey, I'm open for it.
Most definitely. So I think David Delvicchio just joined. So what's up, David? We are recording this. You'll see that we mentioned you earlier on. Anthony kind of gave you some kudos for helping him with some of your loans that you did. Yeah, and so I'm going to probably have one of these Thursdays. We'll actually have a couple of lenders on, and so David's welcome to come on as well and talk about those different options. Even with the interest rates going up, there's a lot of different creative ways that lenders are working with investors right now that are pretty interesting. So we do have a few questions here. Johnny wants to know, what were the challenges you experienced with your first few Airbnbs?
I guess a couple things. For one thing, cheap furniture. Don't buy cheap furniture. Yeah. Don't buy the most expensive furniture, but don't buy cheap furniture, because if you do buy cheap furniture, and that's where I see these ads, right? I'm not gonna say any names, where they're like $3,000 or $4,000 you get an Airbnb, and I'm like, dude, you got $3,000 or $4,000 Airbnb, everything in there is cheap. And what's gonna happen is your guests are gonna fall on them. They're gonna tear up your couch. They're gonna tear up your bed, and your review's gonna be bad, and they're gonna cuss you out and all this kind of stuff. So that's the first thing. Don't buy cheap furniture, and then really make sure your cleaning team is tight. At the beginning, you're gonna have to do it yourself. I remember when I first started, I never really go to my houses now, like hardly ever. When I first get them started, I go, but at the beginning, I was there all the time, making sure everything was clean, because that's one of the most important things is making sure it's clean. So clean the team tight. Don't buy cheap furniture. Don't pay a lot of money for furniture. That's a different thing. Paying a lot of money and don't buy cheap furniture is two different things. You can go Facebook Marketplace, whatever you got to do at the beginning, hustle, get you some furniture, right? But don't give IKEA crap, because you're going to take that butt whooping in the end, for real.
So no, definitely. Yeah, we learned that the hard way as well.
It's bad.
Especially not, IKEA has some nice stuff, but a lot of times it's cheap and it breaks easily.
It looks good.
It looks good in the beginning, but you spend too much time getting that stuff, replaced with other things that won't break as much. And a little nugget, we used to do a lot of estate sales. So, we'd get up on a Saturday morning at 7, and my wife would be there. She'd go strategically after 2 or 3 items. I'd run the other direction for another 2 or 3 items. So yeah, you definitely, and you can pick up some good quality stuff for good prices there too. So
absolutely.
But yeah, you do want to have quality stuff. You don't want to just get discounted furniture, and you do have to spend up a little bit. I mean, like we spend on average now in our 1 bedrooms with everything included, electronics, around $8,000, $9,000 for a 1 bedroom. Where when I was starting, I was kind of stretching it at 3,000 or 4,000, and there's a big difference.
Hey, I see those things. I said, you can do it, but you will be doing it again and again and again, and you're gonna take a lot of butt whoopings doing that $3,000 or $4,000 situation.
Most definitely. So Debbie has a question. Hey, Debbie. So what are the 3 best ways to market your properties besides any of the major platforms?
I'm glad you asked that question. And that's the thing about this particular space, I think that a lot of people have got wrong, and we've kind of learned over the years, is so many people in short-term rental space depend on Airbnb and VRBO. That's pretty much Airbnb 90% of their calendar, and then VRBO and maybe Booking.com. This is your property. You have a furnished, you don't have an Airbnb. You have a short-term rental. Understand that. And you need to get out there anywhere, whether it's insurance companies. We do a lot of work with insurance companies, with these movie companies, with corporations. When people who come through your door and they stay there for a long time, you need to know why they're there. And you need to make sure that next time they come back to you. So when you're really talking about this short-term rental space, do not depend on, for a long-term business, Airbnb, VRBO, because you're not going to last in that particular thing. Because when you're high on that algorithm and you're, getting all these hits, it's great. But when you're low on it and your count is empty, this is your product. You have to go out there and market that product and get it in front of as many eyes as possible. It's kind of funny, just a little, I was looking at the Super Bowl, I'm sure everybody was. And, the Super Bowl performer doesn't get paid. And people say, well, damn, they got all these people watching. And that's why. This is your time to put your product in front of billions of people. We got to do the same thing. Of course, 1 billion is kind of a stretch for us, right? But as many people as you can, everybody needs to know you have a furnished short-term rental. Yeah. Because people have needs for that. And you have to do whatever you need to do to get in front of everybody. Whatever. Get in front of in their face. And they know that you're that person. I get calls all the time. They just know Anthony got the big houses. They say it's guy Anthony, he got the big house. I've kind of made myself the guy with the big houses. So I just get calls for that. They know me for that. Most people don't even know I do surgery. They know I got big houses.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you got to just kind of old school and get your name out there. Make sure people know what you do, for sure.
Hustle out, baby.
All right. Another question from Patricia. How do you choose your market to scale the operation?
I wouldn't say is there a way to choose, but sometimes the right market is not obvious. Everyone would think Atlanta, Buckhead is the best place to be, or Atlanta Midtown is the best place to be. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes it's big fish, small pond. I have houses down in South Georgia. I have the only Airbnb in Barnesville, Georgia. Most people in Atlanta don't know what Barnesville is. I have the only one. It's 16. It sleeps 16. It's 5 bedrooms. The only one, right?
Was that scary at first?
Is that what?
Was that scary? I mean, how did you make that plunge?
It was risky. It was risky for sure.
Is that the one that has like a lake on the back of it as well?
No, that's in Macon.
No, okay.
That's in Lizella. That's probably the only Airbnb in Lizella. But Barnesville, it was the house. It got a pool inside the house. It was just a unique house. And I said, well, worst case scenario, maybe people from Atlanta come visit it, right? But you'll be surprised. Most of my work there is a lot of vacations from Atlanta who just want to take a quick hour drive. But I get so much corporate business. Right now, when guys are building around 75 in that area, it's raggedy hotels, and my house. They pick my house. They got 6, 7 guys, and they stay there for months at a time.
Nice.
So sometimes don't think about the big cities. I want to be on the beach. I want to be this. Everybody does. But remember, there's also more competition for you. So now you got a little crappy house on the beach, and you're going against a multi-million-dollar riverfront, waterfront situation. You're going to take the crumbs there. So sometimes a smaller house in a less desirable area, but an area that could possibly have traffic, that could be your winner. So
definitely.
Look at it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think so. To answer the market question, I mean, I think it's more opportunistic. Like you said, you got a whole floor in one building that brought you to go to Arkansas,
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, and I got an opportunity to manage 20 properties in Tampa, and it's sometimes it's just opportunistic, and you kind of learn more about that market. It's not really like you're looking at a clean slate and throwing a dart and saying, well, I want to be here. I think it's a combination of those two things based on the opportunities that are coming up, right? So let's see here. I think, Johnny, so this is going to be recording. This is going to be recorded and replayed, and the replay will be available on the B&B Investing Group as well. And, we'll be able to, everyone that's watching will be able to kind of, if you jumped in late, can get a copy of that recording as well. So, one of the things that I like about this business is the flexibility and kind of the passive side of things. Once you get things going right, because it's not always passive. It's not, you're definitely going to have fires that you have to put out. But, talk to me a little bit about how many hours a week are you spending on your business right now? Not when you're going and setting 10, 15.
Right. It's different.
Once you got things humming along, how many hours are you personally spending on your business?
I think that for me now, I do all the revenue management, the pricing. So I would say realistically 2-3 hours a day, maybe. I spend working on, and that's me still being relatively active, right? That also includes me. I'm always learning. I'm still U2 University. Anybody that's coming out with something that could be new, a new algorithm thing, a new, marketplace that we can market these properties, I'm always learning, reading, looking at videos, that kind of deal. So it includes all of that. So I would say maybe 2-3 hours a day I spend doing it.
Nice.
And that's probably with everything included.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the learning aspect. I'm learning every week and every month something new, and I'm attending a lot of the different conferences that are out there, and every day there's a different vendor come into the marketplace. I just spoke to one today that I'm probably going to have on one of these weekly meetings, that they specialize in providing lending to short-term rental operators based on their net cash flow. So if I've got 50 units and my net cash flow is, $150,000 a month, then they'll give me a loan for like a line of credit for like $500,000 that'll get repaid based on that activity. It's very similar to kind of a factoring deal where they look at your bank account activity,
right?
But they're targeting as their client short-term rental owners and operators, as well as long-term rental. And it's probably 10% to 15%, but that's still cheaper than what a factoring company would do. And they're not using your personal credit. They're not looking at your personal assets or looking at your business strictly as making the underwriting decision. And so when you've got those types of lending opportunities to help you grow, when you need to set up 15 units in a 60-day window, you can kind of tap into those type of lending options. And so I think, that's another thing that I'm always kind of looking at all the different vendors that are out there that are supporting the space.
Right. How fast are they lending on that? Is it like 30 days, a couple weeks?
So that was my first call with them. So I'm going to get more details on it and kind of figure that out. But I'll link you up so you can check it out, because you probably might have it makes you grow quicker, right? To have access to funding like that. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your book that you just recently put out there. I'm going to put a link out in the comments so everyone can kind of see the availability. It's called Big Houses, Big Money, Big Houses.
Big house, big money. So no, I wrote this book. Actually, I finished it a month or two ago. It took me about 6 months, 7 months to do it. It's a lot writing a book, first time author or whatever.
That's awesome.
And then essentially, I wrote it because in this space, there's a lot of people who can teach you how to do, set up a small Airbnb, whatever. There's a lot of gurus in that. There's a lot of people who know that. But when you're talking about more the luxury space, the more bigger house situation, there's not a lot of people, right? When I went and searched for it, I had to just learn it on my own type deal. And so now I said, well, there's a need, because I know that one thing these houses can outperform. There's no way a big house ran correctly can not outperform a smaller 1 or 2 bedroom unit, unless it's just some crazy penthouse or whatever, right? Especially in the same area type deal. And so that's why I wrote it. I said, look, I want to teach people, yes, there's this $2,000 or $3,000 Airbnb method, but there's also this whole nother game that's more on the corporate side, more on the luxury side. It's harder, but usually things that are harder are a little bit more lucrative too. So that's what made me write it, and that's how I got started with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just put the link out there on the comments, so hopefully everyone can check it out. And I'm probably going to get a copy because, we've started to buy some larger homes too. We just got a house up on Lake Lanier that we're going to hopefully be finished by the end of this month and go live with. And so I agree with you. If you look on AirDNA in any market, you're statistically going to have less than usually 5 or 10% are going to be 5-bedroom or bigger houses. And so you're already kind of starting with an advantage in the marketplace based on there's not that many other options that can sleep that many people, right? So, very interested in that. Is there anything else you want to touch on that we haven't talked about already, Anthony?
No, I think that to me, I think this is it's a fun space. It's a new space. We're dealing with our challenges, but I think that it's still an area where most people can get involved in this space still. It's not, I know it's a whole Airbnb bus thing going around, and it is harder now. But if you have a good product and really come out with a good system and learn, what you need to learn from the beginning and just implement it and be serious about it, right? Like, you got to be serious. This is a serious business. People are paying serious money. They want what the picture showed and what they expected. But if you can do that, you can still come in here and kill it. You just got to just get around the right people and learn. Like, I think that's the most important thing is just like me and you, Rich, I've been doing this now. I think this is my 4th year. So I started, 4 years ago, I had no Airbnbs. Now I have 30 something, probably going to 40. I don't know how many in the next 60 days, but that's how quickly things can change in this space for you. So I think it's important to just know that, hey, look, get in here, learn from everybody, and then just find your way, just really kind of find your way in your access and get started.
That's awesome. So listen, I'm going to get you back here in 6 months to give us an update. Hopefully you'll get closer to like 100 properties and.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord. No, how about this? I get my 50, you have your 200, and then we package it up.
There you go.
Pack it all up. See,
that's another unique conversation that we've had with a couple folks. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Now we super big. Now they got to come.
Exactly. No, I like it. I like it. Well, listen, Anthony, I appreciate you jumping on with me here. Just a reminder for those of you, BNB Investing Group, we help real estate investors change over from what they're doing in real estate and getting to more passive income with short-term rentals. And so if you want to learn more about that, just hit me a direct message on Facebook, and we'll schedule a quick 10-minute call to see if this is something that's good for you or not. But it's something we've launched this year that we're kind of out there helping a lot of investors learn more about this business and kind of be able to learn from the Anthonys of the world and myself. And so you're not kind of figuring it out on your own. And so we're here to help. I'm happy to, have you guys reach out. And Anthony, thanks again, man, for spending time with us today. I know you've got deals to buy and houses to onboard, so I appreciate you spending the time, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, listen, everybody out there, thank you for listening to this, and go get it. Definitely go get it. Get to work.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on the BNB Investing Podcast this week. Please click on the subscribe and like button below. For more trainings, property tours, and content, you can join my BNB Investing Facebook group by clicking below. If you are ready to grow your short-term rental portfolio and maximize your monthly income, you can click on the link below to schedule a quick strategy call with Rich or someone from his team to see how we can help or point you in the right direction. Stay tuned for our next episode and hope to see you on the BNB Investing Group podcast.